Yeah, I mean, first rounds are always tricky, especially, she played through qualifying, and she's a tricky opponent in general. She does a lot of quirky stuff with the slices and coming to the net and, all of that. And I've played her before in the past, obviously a long time ago. I think I lost, so I'm just happy that I was able to overcome all that. Wasn't playing my best tennis, but I think, most of the time, usually every Grand Slam, you have one bad match, and I'm glad I was able to get that out the way in the first round.
And the W. Andrew.
Andrew Jones, ESPN, and Skate. Coco, congrats on the win. Brad has always had a philosophy of winning ugly throughout the time with the players that he's coached, and with how him and Pierre have had their tour experiences of getting through matches and being able to win that without their best. Is that a message that they were able to give to you, and how you were able to show that tonight against a very tough opponent in Laura?
Yeah, I definitely won ugly tonight. It was a lot of weird points, and with the slicing, it usually something that I really do well against opponents who slice, and so I wasn't, and we were prepared for it. I think today was just the execution. I'll just came from playing Muchova and last week, who has an amazing slice, but obviously she's a more aggressive player than Laura. So I think I was just trying my best to just stay in the points and try to push her on defense. She was coming onto the net a lot, and I lost her in doubles at Wimbledon. So I knew she had good hands, and she proved that she did. I think she only missed like 2 or 3 volleys. So yeah, today was truly winning ugly.
Basically, was that the most you saw an opponent talk to the umpire in a match that you've ever dealt with?
Yes, really. I mean, that was an interesting match, and yeah, it was the most I've seen a discussion about the rules which are in place.
Okay, in the back, Ben.
Ben Rothenberg, NCR. Yeah, just on that, just how much were you fighting to keep your focus? I know at one point you went up to the umpire yourself and talked to her for a while, but just how much were you trying to think like, okay, engaged, let me just get this out of my system, or how much were you trying to just keep it cool?
Yeah, I was really patient the whole match. She was going over the time since the first set, and I never said anything. I would look at the umpire, and she didn't do anything. And then obviously the crowd started to notice that she was taking long, so you would hear people in the crowd yelling time or doing the watch motion. And I was really, on her serve, even though you're supposed to be on the time, I was being nice. And, my team told me that I should have spoke up earlier. But then it got to the point where she was doing it a lot on my serve. And my issue with that was the ref was calling the score like a couple seconds after the point was finished. So it made it look like I was serving abnormally fast. But as you guys know, you've watched my matches, I'm not a fast server. I'm not a slow one. I'm like right in the middle. So that's where I was getting annoyed too. And it wasn't like we were having long rallies. I know sometimes after a long rally, the ref waits a few seconds, and I totally get that. But we were having like 2-ball rallies, and then it would be 8. I would count in my head, and then the score would be called. And so it was just a lot of that. So I was finally happy when the time violation came. But obviously on my serve, I was like, she has to be ready when I'm serving. It's not like I'm not a fast server, but obviously when you're calling the score 8 seconds later, then it looks like I'm serving 24 on the clock. But usually I look at the clock and I try to serve around 14, 15 second mark.
Yeah, Kevin Kurz, The Athletic. How much of a mental boost was it winning that first game in the second set that went 12 deuces, I think it was?
Yeah, it was a great mental boost. I didn't break her in the first, and I think I had a lot of opportunities in the first to break. So I was glad to get over that hump, and I think that changed the momentum of the match after that. It was pretty much smooth sailing. I mean, I got broken in the third, but I think that game was a vital momentum changer.
Ava Wallace, The Washington Post. I think it was a weird situation tonight on the monitor, and just that we could hear Brad and Para a little bit more, I think, than usual. But so I don't know how much they are talking to you during matches normally, but how much, they were telling you to go up to the umpire earlier. How much do you have to tune that out and decide when I get, frustrated enough, I'm going to go? But having the extra voice, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I heard them tell me that, and I was aware of the time really since the like second game of the match about how long, because I would return and I would look at the clock, and I don't know. I do agree with them that I should have put more pressure on the referee a little bit earlier in the match. But I was also at the same time, I think when mostly they were telling me that was in the second set, and that's when I was doing well. So I didn't want to like break the momentum and everything. And yeah, and in the third set, even I thought for like a half a second, maybe I shouldn't say nothing after I hit that serve. And then I was like, okay, this is like going on too long. So I was like, all right, I have to say something. And I mean, I think the pressure worked. Obviously, she gave those time violations after that. But I don't know. I think the officiating needs to be the same regardless of the player. And it was also a situation after that long game in the first set. She was sitting down. And I told the ref that she's not allowed to sit down because that's the rule. And she said, well, it's a long game. And I said, tennis, I don't know exactly what I said, but I said it doesn't matter if it was a long game. You know, endurance is part of tennis. If I'm going in the gym 4 hours and I'm running tracks and doing cardio, that's to prepare me for these long moments. So she should be as prepared. So I think that was the situation that I was getting frustrated because I felt like the rules were being bent. And that's why a lot of players get mad when these time violations are called, because one ref is letting them go over and the other is more strict on the time. And I think tennis needs to be more strict on the rules for everybody, regardless of the situation.
Howard.
Hi, Coco. Howard Fendrich with the AP. Wondering what your reaction was to having the Obamas there tonight, and did you get a chance to meet them?
I actually just met them right before I came in here. So my mood, you know, is a little bit nicer. Maybe I'm saying nicer things than I actually planned on to. So that light in my mood, I literally text. I was like, that's right in my mood so much. I wasn't sure if they were here or not. I saw the Secret Service, so I didn't know if it was, you know, the Mr. Biden and Mrs. Biden, or I knew it was somebody. Then I heard that maybe Mr. Clinton was coming, so I didn't know who exactly it was. So I didn't know until after the match. I didn't see them in the presidential box, so I wasn't, you know, I was obviously looking at that, but they weren't, I guess, in my eye line. But afterwards, yeah, they told me that they wanted to say hi, and I've met Mrs. Obama before, and I thought it was just her. They told me it was just her initially, and then Mr. Obama was there in the room too. So I was like, oh my God. So it was definitely like I don't know, I haven't soaked it in because I literally just walked in here. So I think that I'm gonna never forget that moment for the rest of my life, and I kind of want to just, I went from being really upset after a win to like being really happy. So I'm glad I got to meet them, and they gave me some good advice too.
Court.
Not gonna share a little bit of that with us?
Oh, they just told me like how I handled myself in these situations, and you know, she did say I could. It's good to speak up for myself. So that I think she was happy that I spoke up for myself today.
Court.
Courtney Nguyen, WTA. I don't want to sound like I'm going off of that, but
Yeah.
my question was, like, why did you choose today as the day where you kind of like stood up for yourself in that situation? Because I think in DC you were saying that in the past, being like so young on the tour, you were a lot more bottled up, and maybe would have probably let this slide and just kind of be a little internal. So why today?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a thing. I really don't like confrontation all that much. And yeah, and then I was thinking about it the whole match, and I don't know. I wasn't sure if I was in the right or not until it like happened multiple times, and then I was like, okay, I know I'm in the right. And I think it just reached a point where I was just really frustrated. And for me, I try my best not to let my emotions get taken over myself. So I wanted to express my frustration, but also being censored. I didn't want any bombs to fly or anything. So I was trying to best communicate how I was feeling to the referee. And I think she understood, maybe not. But yeah, I think that certain situations like this, that when it happens over and over, I'm not going to complain if it's once or twice. It was at least 7 times that I counted. So yeah, I'm usually not a player to confrontation with refs and everything, and I tried to explain that to her. Like, I'm not a fast-paced player. I'm not Nick. I'm not, you know, I bounce the ball 6 times before I serve. I ask for 3 or 4 balls, and I throw it back to the ball kids because I like to get the newest ball. So I know how much time I'm taking, and it's a normal amount of time.
Hi, Coco. Dan Matthews, Daily Mail. There are lots of players in all sports who kind of feed off that sense of injustice in a game. How do you think it affects you, and the fact that you don't like to kind of use that, at least outwardly, to the umpire, etc.?
I think today it really helped. I mean, I know I lost the 5-1 game, but that was long after that. I think it helped because the frustration was bottling, to be honest. And and I think honestly, if I could do it all over again, I would have said something earlier, maybe on a changeover, not so much like when I was serving. I would have still done that, but maybe I could have done in the second set, maybe say, hey, to the ref, like, can you watch the time in a more calm way? And then at least it puts it in her head that, I'm aware of it and she should be aware of it as well. So I do think I wish I would have did that earlier. But other than that, I don't regret, talking to the ref the way I did. I actually watched the video back when I was taking an ice bath because I wanted to make sure before I came in here, because sometimes, you have these emotions, you forget what you said. And I would still say everything that I said in that moment again.
On the left-hand side.
Giddy Nathan, Defector Media. Coco, what does it feel like when you're on the court and the crowd is turning against your opponent so vocally? Mm-hmm. Is it kind of distracting or confusing or maybe motivating in a weird way? What is that mix of emotions?
Yeah, and the early part of the match, they were definitely cheering after she missed first serves, and I don't know if the TV saw it, but I would try to put my hand like this or cut though like that in between serves to tell the crowd not to do that. But then when it came to the time violation stuff, I feel like you as a player know the situation, and also she knows I'm American, so I didn't want to tell the crowd to calm down, to be honest, because I know that they were seeing what everybody else was seeing, and I think that's part of sports in general. And it doesn't really add anything to me or anything. I guess obviously it adds more amp to me when they're cheering for me. I wouldn't say I necessarily like booing or any bad stuff like that, but yeah, when it came to the cheering in between serves, I did try my best to de-escalate. It's not much I can do while she's serving, de-escalate the situation. But when it came to the time violation stuff, I mean, at that point, that's sports. It's New York City. I'm not going to try to calm that down.
Okay. 2 more questions. 1, and then Willie will be the last question.
Hi, Coco. You play Mira and Draven next. Around this time last year, you'd barely ever played against anyone who was younger than you, and now you've done it a few times. So just wondering how you like that position, and also, at the US Open on Ash, you're the player who kind of knows the court well, I guess. Will you kind of enjoy that, being in that position?
Yeah, honestly, the age is not anything I think about. I never thought about it before when I was on the younger end, and I never thought in the past when I was on the older end. It means nothing. I think, she has her ranking, and that's all that matters. I mean, whether she had her ranking now, I think she's 16 or 17. Is she 16? I don't know. If she had her ranking then, that means she deserves to be here. So I think, the media and in general, put too much on age, and, it doesn't matter if I'm playing someone younger. And yeah, it didn't matter when I was younger. I was still beating some people older than me, so she has the equal opportunity to do that on Wednesday. So I'm going to approach the match as I would any other match, and try to do better for what I did at French Open. I was able to get through that one, but, I was tight in some moments, so I think I'm just going to try to improve upon that.
All right, Willie, last question.
Willie Weinbaum from ESPN. To what degree does your showing of maturity matter to you in situations like tonight and in general?
It was something I was thinking about in the match, to be honest. I didn't want to come off as a complainer. And I guess when you're in the moment, I don't know. And when I was in the moment, I didn't, I was thinking about it since I said the second game, to be honest. And I don't know, sometimes your head, and I'm just also being in the public image, you think about all these actions that doesn't have to do with tennis when it comes to caulking with the ref or, throwing the racket or banging the racket. It's stuff that I think about, honestly. So, yeah, I do think when I went up to the ref, I tried to take a deep breath and, explain my side of the story the best that I could, but also getting my point across. It is something that I think about my maturity level, because I know it's something that people look at a lot, and I know you do one wrong move, people are going to call you all types of names and tear you down. But today, I think, was it important to show that you can do all that and still stick your ground, and people are going to respect you. I think as long as you approach a person with respect, then everything should be fine. I mean, I didn't approach her with any type of disrespect. I was being respectful, and that's what I was taught, to do things in a respectful way. And only then, when you're disrespected, then you're allowed to get disrespectful. I don't think the ref disrespected me, so I came up to her in a respectful way. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that.